The Ames City Council for Tuesday, October 22nd order. Welcome, everybody. We'll move right into consent. Council, does anyone want to pull any item from consent tonight?
Mayor, I'd like to pull item number 12.
I'd like to pull item 13, Mayor.
Anything else? Entertain motion to approve consent less item number 12 and 13.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call.
Fetcher.
Aye.
Martin.
Aye.
Junk.
Aye.
Corriere.
Aye.
Rollins.
Aye.
Edie Hanson.
Aye.
Good. All right. Thank you. Tim, questions?
Mayor, I've asked Keith to speak to item number 12 since it's sort of a new development and opportunity to sort of communicate to the community some exciting developments.
So this is the agility course that's going to go into Car Park. And we're always looking for trying to diversify our playground offerings, our playground equipment, and so on. We saw this several years ago and thought that it might be a good idea. And what the agility course is, we always reference, if anybody has watched the American Ninja Warrior on TV, where there's different things that they do. There's platforms to start off that are staggered, that you jump from one to another. There's cargo nets, there's upper body, there's horizontal ladders, there's vertical ladders. There's just a lot of different things, and really helps people work on lower and upper body strength. So one of the neat things with this is we have had 3 separate public input sessions. Initially, just to go through the idea, bring it to the neighbors. We had a second meeting with the neighbors, had some people that are opposed to it. A lot of people loved it, can't wait for it to be done. And we just had another meeting just last week, and just to kind of show the final plans. And again, they picked the color of what it's going to look like. That was in the council action form. But again, people are really excited about it, and we think it's going to be a great offering for the public and provide something different. People can use it at any time. It will have a rubber surface, kind of like the Miracle Field up at Honest Grove Park. It will have that type of surfacing. And then we will also do some programming classes and things of that sort as well.
Great. And so, with the exception of Steve, none of us up here are ninja warriors. And so, do you have to be a ninja warrior? You like that? You have to be a ninja warrior.
I think Steve is taking offense to that comment.
But
I'm taking offense.
no. I'm in trouble with how I do this. But it's just really for everyone.
Yeah. So with it, there are components. The whole idea is you can go through it and do all of the components. You can skip components if it's not something that's for you. There's one where there'll be a vertical board with ledges that you can kind of grab and use your fingertips to go across. That might not be for everybody, but you just skip that and go on to the next thing. Maybe it's a cargo net or something else. So, but it's one of those things that, yes, anybody can use it. Maybe not all the components might fit you, but you can find something to do with that.
Yeah. And I want to just publicly appreciate the work that you did in the due diligence to figure out the right type of equipment for our community. So this wasn't just what one person thinks is going to be a fit. There's a lot of work that went into that. So thank you for that. And then I also wanted, one other thing while you're here is just to acknowledge the work that you and your team did. We have fantastic new equipment in the city's weight room. Do you want to talk about that at all?
Yeah, we had the old equipment was, it was about 20 years old and time for replacement. So again, Nancy Shaw, who oversees that area, does a great job talking to our users, knowing what's out there, what pieces of equipment that we should got feedback, and we replaced that this year. We have all the new equipment there, and it's we have some free weights, but these machines, anybody can again use them. They're accessible, And then the other thing that we did is we just redid the gym floor, sanded it down, took care of some issues that we had with it, and really night and day difference, kind of that kind of dungy gold, and now it's a bright new kind of maple floor is what it looks like.
Yeah.
So yeah, and people, if they really want to use it, we do sell punch cards for the equipment, and it's really, I think, we try to get the word out, let people know, but I think a lot of people still don't understand that we really do have a nice weight room, and it's available 5:30 until 9, 10 o'clock at night, depending on the time of year.
Well, it's a beautiful facility, and if people haven't checked it out, they should. I was there last night, and the gym floor is amazing. So thank you, Keith, for taking your time on that.
Yeah, I got a question.
Oh, please.
Yeah. Can you explain what the role of the landscape structures was in this design process? Because my understanding is Snyder and Associates was the consultant, and there's a copyright 2024 on this design. What process do you go through to, getting bids on this and having competition on this with appears to be landscape structures? Is the designed this and laid it out?
Yeah. So with it, Landscape Structures was not on the design team. They were not part of Snyder and Associates. What we did is we actually did, like we do with all of our playground equipment, we do an RFP, a request for proposal. So what we did is we put out a request for proposal. I think we got several, I think it was from 3 or 4 companies. We got proposals for agility equipment. They laid it out, and then we do have criteria that we look at all the proposals, and we score them. And Landscape Structures came out as the top supplier through that process. So we did that prior to finalizing the plans and specs. So that's why we put Landscape Structures in the plans. But we will, as the city, we will actually be purchasing that equipment and having it installed. And it's not in the plans and specs. That equipment is by owner. So it's not actually something that somebody's going to bid on as part of this process.
So what would the bid package include then?
The bid package pretty much includes just about everything else. It's the concrete, it's the surfacing, the rubber surfacing. There's some trail improvements. That was one thing that the neighbors talked about, changing the crossing on Meadow Lane. So we're going to do that. We'll have a shelter that is going to go in there. There's benches. There's some stormwater drainage that needs to be done. Some connections to a current stormwater drain. So that's just about everything else is part of this bid package.
So you already took competitive bids or proposals from different equipment manufacturers, selected them through a process of evaluation. Now, will they install the equipment then?
Yes, that was part of the proposal. It was for the equipment and installation. So they will do that, and they'll coordinate that installation with whoever we award the contract to for all the rest of the work.
So they'll have the responsibility, liability, not our staff. They will have the responsibility, including the surfacing. Is that right?
Yeah, the surfacing will be part of the bid package.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
Very good. Thank you.
Yep. All right. You're welcome. Any other questions?
No, thanks, Keith.
No.
Move approval of item 12.
Thank you. Is there a second? Roll call.
Garten.
Aye.
Junk.
Aye.
Corriere.
Aye.
Rollins.
Aye.
Edie Hansen.
Aye.
Betcher.
Aye.
Thank you. Gloria, item number 13, you have a question?
So I pulled this item for 2 reasons. First, I see that we have the artist who designed the Campus Town pillar in the audience, and I'd love to give Jordan Brooks a chance to talk about his design, because I think it's a really cool looking design for Campus Town. And I also wanted to bring up a little discrepancy on one of the panels that Jordan and I have had an exchange about with regard to the historical panel with the date and the map not matching each other.
Okay.
So I'll let you decide whether Jordan comes up now or.
Jordan, if you'd love to give you a few minutes to describe your And is there an opportunity for put this up on the screen too for Brian? Can we for those at home could also see it too?
Yes, I have a handout to show like the augmented reality art examples so folks can see that. But you want, I can grab mine.
I think this is probably our first example of potential, assuming we approve it, city artwork that involves augmented reality. So it's very cool for us to have this opportunity.
And Jordan, if you want to just use that microphone there, normally we ask you to stay at the podium, but go ahead and you can operate that if you like to and use that microphone right there.
Great.
All right, so again, hi everyone. My name is Jordan Brooks. Artist name is No Self, and so I've been working with the area young professionals to come up with a design for this Campus Town piece. A large part of our discussion circled around how can we bring some of the history and some of the vibrancy of the neighborhood into the piece as well too. And so what we have is a 4-panel design, and we've also been thinking about how can we engage that community since it's a really lively space within our area. And so the idea to add augmented reality is a part of the proposal. So for the folks who I have some papers that are being passed around. If you scan the QR code, it'll take you to the app so that you could download the app that would allow you to use the augmented reality portion. And then there's a picture that says I Heart Des Moines is an example of another mural that I have down in the Skywalk in Des Moines to give you an example of how the augmented reality works. So this will be the first panel side, just again, going to the name of Campus Town and learning in a little bit around some of the history, knowing that there were some of the fires that were taking place on campus. That's where some of the color palette and choices of the oranges and reds came into play. Then also the construction that didn't took place. So we wanted to kind of mirror both not only flames, but the buildings and construction that came from out of that in a way, kind of mirror those two pieces together. The historic part came into how can we call to the neighborhood. And so we were having the conversations of, do we go with when we found out that Campus Town was named Campus Town, when folks started really activating that part of the community. And then as Gloria was saying, learning about like, this is not exactly how the streets and things were there and together. So we do have some room to shift and change that if our group would like to do so, or if we want to make it a little bit more clear that it's more of like a 1902 to the present kind of thing of this is what the neighborhood looks like now. But our history is back that far with it, or do we want to make this a call to the kind of more original kind of layout if we're able to kind of do that justice? This is also facing, I would say it's facing away from the streets and more into the block. So if we ever want to add another augmented reality portion to this, it would be safer to be able to add it on this side. As opposed to like on the front side and the fourth side, which are directly facing the intersections. Okay, so then this is the third side of the pillar. And then the idea here is this is where the augmented reality part would actually take place. And so when you use this particular app and folks are standing in front of it, the camera uses this image as a trigger to say, hey, pull up the video or the reality thing that's going to play. Since it's a big college kind of related kind of area, everybody loves to do the juicy wiggle during the third quarter of the football games, especially, you're happy about it, especially after a game like this past weekend and knowing that we're 7-0. So the way the video will prompt you to do that dance and it'll allow you to record it. So then what can happen is folks will use it. The imagery will come up around them. They can record that video, repost that to social media, websites and things and stuff of that nature. And we can have different tags and things, whatever that we would like to. Also, we discussed if in the future we want to change it from that particular augmented reality and we keep with the subscription, we can always continue to bring that back and change it according to however we would like it to go. But just that steady concept of making memories, calling to that in the neighborhood, that's what we want people to do is come to this space, make memories, have a good time with one another. Then lastly, this is more so like the instructional side. And so this is just like there will be like, thank you to the different folks who are part of making this project happen. Here are the instructions on how you download the app and use the augmented reality portion. So it's a little bit more general. And again, this is one facing the street. So it's also not meant to be super attractive to where you get a bunch of people wanting to stand next and around it because it's right against the street. So we want to take people's safety and security in mind too as well.
All right, Gloria, you have more comment? Thank you for the description.
I love this idea, especially for Campus Town, because of that vibrant night culture that we've got there and all the young people. My only concern was what Jordan was mentioning about the map and the date. So the date is when the first plats were occurring, 1902. And the map is later than that because Hayward couldn't go through. There was a big swamp. They needed a culvert there. And so my suggestion was to just, bring them into alignment, change the date to 1922 when it became Campus Town, or change the map a little bit. And Jordan's given us a third alternative of, like a range of dates. And so I'd like to move that we approve this contingent upon staff confirming with the artist and with Fuel that a change to that panel is made to bring the map and the dates into alignment somehow.
Before you do that, I have a quick question for you. In your contract, it says that you can only use paint that can be removed by pressure washing. And so my question is that going to cause a problem for you in terms of longevity? Because I agree with Court, this is a really cool project and commend you for the design. Thank you to Fuel for coming through with this. Great initiative. Just didn't want to, I was just curious if we're putting you into a box that you have to use like latex paint for sake of discussion, because we require you to have something that they can power wash off, or just want this to be long lived,
right,
and remain vibrant. So is that a concern? Because the point is that's part of the contract. Maybe it has to be adjusted. And so not to get into details, but
right.
But maybe you say, nope, that's fine because we use the same kind of paint everywhere and it can be blown off with water.
Yeah, of course. Outdoor, as long as it's like some type of outdoor paint that has a little bit of that UV protection in it, or it's a type where it allows it to basically anything that can adhere. And like I said, has that the outdoor kind of quality to it, will be fine to go. Also, we're using a really limited color palette. And so it's not that I have colors that are going to be really hard to get from other spaces and whatnot, where you need a really specific type of brand. So I think that will help us. So yeah, and I think it's maybe I want to say this design is all of 6 colors. And so we'll be able to keep those color swatches to also be able to update it easily.
Well, I'm just not judging what you're doing. It's just more or less make sure you're setting you up to be successful for a long term versus coming back every 2 or 3 years to have to do it, because it's kind of faded essentially.
Yeah, no.
And this is a question for Steve. I noticed that the pier really has taken a lot of weathering, deterioration. There's fractured brick. There's water getting into it, and so prior to Jordan doing this cool work, are there steps can be taken to make sure this is like restored back to better condition prior to him doing his work? Otherwise, I'm concerned that you might have some further deterioration. And his work looks great, but the pier looks terrible.
Yes, Public Works is working with a contractor who does tuck pointing, who will go through and make repairs to the brick, and then pressure wash it and clean it off before the painting gets applied. I understand that the contractor was supposed to start working on that today, but that perhaps did not occur today. So we're following up to find out when exactly that's going to happen, but I expect it'll be in the next couple of days.
Okay, so be properly waterproofed as well to try and address the issues that are underlying that are causing the deterioration then.
That's my understanding.
Good. All right. Because we want this to last, and thanks for bringing your talents to the Ames community.
No problem. I appreciate it.
So I'll try that motion again, if I can get it right. I would move that we approve this item contingent upon staff confirming with the artist and with Fuel that the design on that historic panel brings the map and the date into alignment in some way.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call.
Aye. Corey.
Aye.
Rollins.
Aye.
Edie Hanson.
Aye.
Fletcher.
Aye.
Garden.
Aye.
Thanks, Jordan. Appreciate you coming up and sharing your work with us, and look forward to seeing it in reality, augmented reality, I guess.
There you go. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, move on to public forum. I do have one individual who has expressed interest to address council. I'll start with her, Audrey Kennis. If you want to approach the podium and introduce yourself, and you may start.
Well, good evening, everyone. Audrey
Good evening.
Kennis, 3415 Emerald Drive. So I'm coming before you all tonight regarding a housing code amendment. So I currently own a 3-bedroom home with a 4th non-conforming room in my lower level that I'm renting out to tenants here in South Ames. And so I'm renting it out currently to a family of 4, 2 parents and 2 children. One's in high school, one's, I think, 20, young adult. Now, I've been working with city staff to try to acquire a rental certificate. However, I've been told there are some challenges right now, and I could not be granted a rental certificate based on the number of occupants who are living in my house. So again, this is a 3-bedroom house with a 4th non-conforming. The 3 bedrooms are on the main level, but based on our current code, you cannot have 4 individuals living in a 3-bedroom home, which seems a little illogical to me. And then, I'm just looking at just the reality. I have a great family living in the house. I want to be able to keep them there. So what I've been told is at this point, in order to keep them, I would have to change my 4th non-conforming room into a bedroom, which would then also require me to elevate the ceiling where the stairs are. I would have to lift the ceiling where the stair opening is by about 10 inches, which means I would have to tear the ceiling up, elevate the floor to the upper level. This is just structurally not realistic, right? This is going to cost a lot of money and time. The house is a wonderful house, a beautiful home, well kept. And I'm just struggling right now to make sense of what this is. And again, I understand we have some codes, some housing codes that are on the books, but this is a situation where maybe it's atypical. I would argue it's probably not. Again, a family of 4 living in a 3-bedroom home doesn't seem that atypical to me. But based on our current housing code, they are not permitted to be in my house. I would have to displace this family. They would have to be in a 4-bedroom home in order to meet our current housing, our rental housing requirements, which seems like a high threshold, a burden of threshold to put on renters when we're talking already about housing insecurity. And again, many individuals rent for different reasons, but oftentimes they cannot afford to purchase a home. And so this seems like an inequity that probably was not intended, but has a real implication, not just for me as a landlord, but also for the tenants.
Thank you. And so just to clarify, there are 4 related individuals.
Correct. 2 parents and 2 children living in a
Okay.
3-bedroom home with a 4th
So
non-conforming.
3 bedrooms upstairs
Correct. And
one downstairs.
Correct.
And what are the ages of the kids?
So I don't know technically their ages. I know one's probably in his early 20s. He recently graduated, and one's currently in high school. But according to the code, once you turn 18, he can't live there. So this kid is in high school. Once he turns 18, would have to be kicked out of his parents' home. That doesn't seem humane. It just seems unrealistic. And according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the average young adult doesn't move out. 54% stay within their family home until 27. So this just doesn't, even if we think about 18 or 19 or 20, right, as we're thinking about young folks who are living in this community, they would have to be displaced based on our current code. This doesn't make sense. So I want to leave that with you. This probably was not the intent of the code, but again, these are the implications I need us to consider. And this is putting me as, again, a tenant who is trying to get a rental certification. Again, I've been going according to all the thresholds and requirements that have been put in place. But when I met with one of the building inspectors today, that was brought to my attention, which that was just a bridge too far. This makes no sense. I would pretty much have to tear up the whole house to make it livable, and it's already a beautiful, livable home.
Okay, so just to give you an idea of the process, we would probably ask for a memo from staff to get a better understanding of what's going on and what options might be,
Yes.
or put on a future agenda for discussion. We can't make a decision
Tonight.
tonight or have a
Yeah.
discussion, but I can assure you that probably by the end of the meeting, there'll be some kind of direction
I
to
would
staff
appreciate
to try and pursue more information and then see where it comes into policy making and where
Right.
it stays with code.
Right, I would appreciate that, because this went a little too far. And again, if there are other ways, that's what I need communicated. But don't bring me to this place or have me here tonight for this reason if it can be resolved before.
And is the address that you're talking about that's a rental, is the 3415?
Correct.
Or is it someplace else?
No, it's the 3415. Yep.
All
I
right.
currently live in West Des Moines,
All right.
but I'm here.
All right. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Audrey. Appreciate
Appreciate
it.
it.
Thank you.
Take care.
Anybody else who wants to address council under public forum? Seeing none, we'll close public forum. We'll move on to item number 22, presentation of the 2024 resident satisfaction survey results. Susan.
Good evening. Good evening. Okay, I'm here to present the results of the 42nd Annual Resident Satisfaction Survey. It's my 19th, so I feel like I've been there for quite a few of them, but not quite half of them. Once again, we did this survey this year with the Institute for Design Research and Outreach at the College of Design at Iowa State University. Just a little background about the survey itself. We send out 1,350 paper copies of the survey. I think I showed it to you before. It's 12 pages long. That goes via U.S. mail to a population that is taken from utility bill users. And then in addition to that 1,350 utility bill user customer list, we also send it to Iowa State students by email. And this year we got 450 return surveys, which is lower than last year, but higher than 2 years ago. So we're kind of in the middle. And we've made some improvements to the paper copy of the survey. We continue to give people the option when they get the survey to fill it out online, which is really a great option. And I think we're really going to continue to promote that a little bit stronger in our cover letter, because we had 30 people completed online this year, 46 last year, and 22 the first year we did it. But when they completed online, all the comments and all the data is directly inputted into the database. And what I am starting to see, and what you may have noticed yourself when you go through all the pages of comments, is sometimes they don't always make sense. And I think it's the interpretation of the handwriting that may be causing some problems. And so the more people that we can get to fill it out online, the better that will be. We have a survey response rate of 22%, a little bit lower than last year. And again, by filling it out online, you're able to use a drop-down menu to do it in different languages. We didn't have anybody take us up on that this year. But if you're a non-English speaker, I think it really is a really great way to allow you to take the survey. Survey has a 95% confidence interval at a plus minus 5% margin of error, which again, just to calibrate you, would mean that we believe if the survey was given to the entire population, that 95 out of 100 times the answers would fall into that margin of error rate. The timing of the survey, it went out in the spring. It goes out April and May. We get them back we always have a deadline, and sometime in May, they come back all the way into June, sometimes even a little bit later. We send them off to Iowa State, and we get the data back, the raw data, sometime in the summer, and then the completed analysis comes back to us in the fall, and then I take it to you to kick off the budget process. Some changes in this year's surveys. The departments themselves went through their topics and updated their questions. That caused a little bit of changing in some of the results. And I think that it's kind of hard to judge what that means until we've gone a few years with these new questions. We did add a little section on sustainability, and we removed the special sections from previous years. So we'll just kind of get into some of the results. And again, it was 150 pages and lots of different areas. I try to just sort of pull some things off the top that I usually take back to you each year, and then some of the special things that make the survey a little different. But I'm not going to cover the whole survey. And of course, there's many, many pages of comments that are very interesting to read. This asks about people's preference for ongoing service priorities. And we ask people, should you spend less, spend more, or spend the same? We give them what the annual budget is, and they give us their results. It's on a 3-point scale. So 2 is status quo, and anything that gets a higher than a 2 means that it shifted a little bit more towards spend more. If it has less than a 2, it's drifting a little bit towards spend less. But as you can see from that column that's highlighted, the spend the same is the one that for 10 out of 10, spend the same is the one that comes up again and again. 59 to 82% of respondents are saying spend the same. And when they do, when you do see that number go above 2, our top 3 average ratings were animal shelter, parks, and human service funding. So when it came to trends in preferred property tax adjustments, this year we saw some growth again in the no change. That went from 48% last year to 53% this year. We saw a decrease in the I'm willing to spend a little bit more in property tax. That went from 22% last year to 18% this year. And the number of people who would like to see a decrease in their property tax went down from 30% last year to 29% this year. And that's summarized there. So in regard to capital improvement priorities, this was a really interesting table. So it is interesting to me that when you just add a few more options, how that can change everything. I think for the last 10 years, the top CIP priorities in this survey have remained the same 3, which were reconstructing existing streets, traffic flow improvements, and stormwater. And this year we gave people 2 additional choices. We asked them if they were interested in sustainable solutions incorporated into the projects, and we added energy efficient upgrades to municipal buildings. And that really changed the outcome of this table. Now, is that just a fluke from this year, or is that a trend that we'll see continue? It's really hard to tell at this point. But again, those were things that we added this year. And the reconstructing existing streets is absolutely on the top, which it has remained for years and years and years. So. Yeah, and that's what I said, that you'll see the 2023, the top 3, and then the 2024. So each of the departments has their own special section of questions that they ask kind of to benchmark their service levels, and are they providing our residents with the types of services that they want? Do they find them to be things that they're using, or services that they like? And generally at the end of the sections that are specific to the departments, we do a summary of how did all the departments do overall. And that's kind of what this table does. It looks at each department's overall rating. Are you very or somewhat satisfied with this department? And I find this table to be really quite positive this year, with everything 90 and above. And law enforcement is one of those ones as a department that does more enforcement. It's more difficult for them to get a higher rating, and yet they broke 90, which they don't always do. So that's really good to see, all the way up to 98.6% with fire. So we're seeing very positive numbers overall, and that's sort of reflected in this year's graph, and this shows you 5 years, you just see a little bit of uptick at the end, and that's that orange color, which is 2024. So every department pretty much stayed the same or went up just a little bit. And so that was nice. Those do vary just a little bit. So we're not, it was a good year. Some of our numbers go down a little bit, some of them go up a little bit, but nobody had any wild swings. So one of the sections that we added, which was just sort of to get some feeling about resident opinion on some of the sustainability actions that we're taking. As part of the next steps after the accepting of the climate action plan, the city developed 7 action steps to focus on, and we just asked people for their thoughts on those 7 steps. They kind of prioritized their top 3. Increasing wind and solar generation, looking at waste to energy improvements, and then retrofitting existing buildings were considered high priorities for people who took the survey. And then the other question we asked them is, why is it important to commit to environmental sustainability? And people had various reasons. You could write in your own reason, but what struck me on this table was the number of people who said environmental sustainability isn't important to me. It was a pretty low number. So 8% of the entire population of student, non-student said not important to me. And they certainly could have, put other comments in there. 57% said providing a sustainable environment for future generations was their number 1 reason to commit. So the next one that we included was the usefulness of media sources for information. So I know that communication with our citizens and engagement is important to the council. I added a bunch of other resources on this table. It usually isn't this long. So I'm trying to cast a wide net to determine where people might be getting information. And again, this is the mix of student and non-student. There was no statistical significance between the 2 populations. They are both using these resources at sort of similar rates. But you can just see where people, the column of don't use is interesting to me, as well as the ones who find it. The last column is how useful you find it. Both of those are interesting to see sort of a shift in how people are using different resources. And to me, the question will be, what does this look like next year? Because we've added these ones and now we have baselines.
It's the little bitty part of green mean on most of the average column, except it's not on the last one.
I don't know. I couldn't get that off.
Oh, okay.
I really, it means nothing.
Okay.
It's a formatting error. But thank you.
Yeah. No, thank you.
I'll work on it.
No worries.
One of the sections that we kept in the survey this for the 3rd year were the your health and the sense of community. One thing that was interesting about the mental health self-report is that we're seeing an increase in people's self-reported mental health feeling of very good or excellent mental health, which is a nice trajectory to see. Again, it's just simply somebody who says, this is how I feel, and it's a snapshot in time, but it was nice to see that continuing to increase. And the other one that I had been tracking, and this is not a table that you'll see in the report, I just have been adding to it each year, and it is about community engagement. And so you can see in 2024, how many people are saying yes to issues facing my community are important to me. So less than in 2023, but still more than in 2022. Another topic is I'm knowledgeable about the issues facing my community. That one you saw a bit of a dip. And so it's interesting to look at how are people getting their sources of information, and then do they feel knowledgeable? And then are they engaged in addressing the issues? Again, a little bit of a dip there, but not the lowest it's ever been. At 33% of the people say I'm engaged. In 2022, only 30%, so 33 to 30. It's just kind of going up and down a little bit. And so I'll just keep building out this table as long as you want those questions continued in the report. One of the final graphs that really is kind of one of the telling graphs to me is overall satisfaction with the city of Ames, or looking at our organization as a whole and the quality of service. Looking at the people who rate their services is very good. We saw a very small drop of 2%. 42% of respondents said that they believed the city of Ames service quality was very good. 54% said good, and that gives us a 96% total of good and very good, which I just think is phenomenal. It's really amazing, considering just divisiveness and polarization, and that 96% of the community has come together and just simply said, as you can see, there's comments and not always agreement, but that many people are saying that they believe good or very good would describe the service quality of the city of Ames. And then I didn't pull a lot of these, but these are the word clouds. So they look at the commentary, and you feed those into a software, and it generates, based on the font size, these word clouds that when the words come up more often, they're bigger. And when they come up not as often, they're smaller. But they kind of give you this sense of what people are saying about the best things about living in Ames. And the big city advantages of the small town feel has been a common, sort of a common thought process through this. And parks and community, safe and affordable, those things come up quite a bit. And with that, that is a quick summary of the 149 pages of the resident satisfaction survey. I would be happy to attempt to answer any questions. Every time I read through the survey, I find something new. So I have found a couple, even since last time I read it, a few things I want to fix before we put it out on the web. But if you have comments, I'd be happy to take those. The next steps are in February. I come back before you and we'll talk about getting ready for the 2025 survey. So it gives you some chance to think about it. The problem with our survey is, again, the 6-month lag between when the survey comes out and when we get the data. So it's not always the best tool for something quick or something that has a short time frame, but it is good for those things that you might want to check over a couple of years, or it just is a quick thing you want information on.
Thanks, Susan. Questions?
With regard to the sustainable solutions jumping up to third place, I find that very interesting. I'm wondering if you noted any other places in the survey where something new, maybe the way the departments align things, changed the results for this year.
Yeah, in the police department, questioning, there were just a couple of different ways where they said, what do you want the focus to be on? And that dramatically changed how people ranked the services that they thought the police should focus on. Typically, traffic control is not a popular topic, but I think the new wording was patrolling in high accident areas, jumped it way, way up. It has really been interesting to me to see, even if we should be shifting how the order of how the people are able to pick their choices. I'm sure there's a whole science in how to make sure that your survey is still measuring what you think it should measure. But as a benchmarking survey, I'm sort of hesitant to change things. That was one that showed a lot of differences, the police section of it. So, and they added some new questions. And so we're not sure if those are exactly the right questions. So we'll look at that department again.
One other question, and that's related to the community engagement.
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering, when I look at the data there about I know what's happening in the community, or I've been active in the community, whether you think that having the lower engagement results is maybe because we haven't been having as many big issues, and therefore people have not been as active. We tend to have a pretty reactionary community. You know, if things are going well, people step back. If things aren't going well, we hear from them much more often. And so I don't know how much that plays into whether they're saying they're active or not, or engaged.
I think you've identified current events or controversies may affect survey results. So every year, there's probably other criteria that we may not be measuring or that may be affecting the way people respond to a survey. But I'm not sure how to fix that.
Mhm. Thanks.
Susan, I'd like to talk about the community involvement, sense of community, neighbors, and are there insights that would be helpful for us to think about those? This is on page 71. And for people that are interested in this, there's some, I think, some very interesting feedback on mental health. And is this new? Have we added? Did we just add this one? We don't
No,
have. We
in
don't have-
fact, last year there was discussion about removing those questions. They were requested years ago by Healthy Ames for some Story County data that they were collecting. And they really are not, I mean, they're not city services. And so we did add them at the request of another organization. And then I think the first couple of years you found the information helpful. I don't have a lot of background on it. We worked with Iowa State to come up with some kind of standard benchmarking questions that other communities use as kind of a gauge of connectivity, mental health, physical health. That's why Healthy Ames wanted the information. Healthy Ames has kind of disbanded. We've kept it, so now we have some historical context. But it was something I always pull the minutes of the February meeting when I come to you, and it did say that there was discussion on removing those questions and what were we going to do with the information when we got it, and it was decided to keep it. So,
well, and so this just I have answered my own question. Page 69 shows overall mental health rating, and this should be encouraging. So those who ranked their overall mental health as being very good or excellent went from 55% in 2022 to 64% in the 2024 survey.
yeah.
So again, there may be some limitations on this, but that should be encouraging to us, right? That's a very strong data point.
Yeah, it was good to see that increase. And now we have the longitudinal data where we can see it. Again, if you choose to keep it in, you continue to have that. As an organization that doesn't provide those services, I mean, it's nice to know that the citizenry is feeling more positive. I think, again, we started collecting them for another organization that needed them for public health information.
Yeah, it's very encouraging. And then sense of community, page 71, and we think about the quality of life, why people choose Ames. This sense of community, this sense of quality of life is very important. It's hard for us to measure this, and I appreciate this data. Do you have any insights from that you learned from this survey that you think would be helpful for us to track?
When the sense of community and the health questions, I really am just reading them for context. I don't. It's like you, I was happy to see people feeling more optimistic and positive, but I think it would serve as some kind of warning sign if we saw a drop, a significant drop. There would be hey, what's happening here?
Mm-hmm.
But it's, at this point, it's just benchmarking.
Yeah, no, very helpful. Final question I had. So you clarified that the survey was April to May, June. Right?
The survey went out to people in April, and then they were told to return it by May. they do trickle in later. But
Okay.
for the majority of them are back by May.
One of the things that we're dealing with is trying to think through the issue of the growing homelessness in Ames. So this isn't going to capture, if people have concerns about the role of the homeless around the library, none of that's going to be captured in this, primarily because that really came in after this survey was done. Is that?
Yeah, I didn't notice any comments about in the library section at all. So I think that's an example of an issue that might be that needs a response faster than the survey is able to give it.
Okay, thanks.
I was looking at this chart, actually, no way to look at it is that people went from good to fair.
Yeah, you saw an
So I
increase in
think,
fare.
so I think that, yes, on one hand, it's nice to see that there's been an increase, people rating very good to excellent, but it is concerning that actually you saw a 10% jump, people rating themselves being fair versus maybe being good. So we have to look at it objectively and saying, yeah, it's good that people are in that one category, but are we seeing something
Yeah, a
occurring where
shift.
people are feeling not as good? And I'm not a statistician, but it's something that to be, we just can't focus on one column. We gotta look at all four. When I was adding them up, I thought, well, how's this add up? And then, oh my gosh, you got 0 in good. So that's interesting.
I thought that was, and that's a great point. When you see that perfect little stair step, I am kind of, I was drawn to that, but you're absolutely correct. The number of people we lost good and they went primarily to fair and just a few to very good or excellent.
How come this is a 4-point scale? But I mean,
I don't know.
it's interesting.
There were different. I mean, there's 3-point, 4-point, and 5-point scales on the different questions.
Just looking at it and kind of thinking about that question about the difference going from good to fair. And maybe I'll try to remember February to bring this up again, but maybe it's too close. The difference between fair and good when you have poor and excellent on either side, like maybe they're kind of the same thing in people's mind, or it's hard to really draw that line. So anyway, that's a thought.
Oh, I do know that there's some recommendations about which scale to use for different questions, and it's really not the call that I make. I really rely on Iowa State to determine what scale is the most appropriate. They really try to force you to go one direction or the other, depending on what the question is. They really don't want people to rest in the middle. And so and that's what makes the scale important. It makes the headings important of how you label each one of them. So you'll see different scales throughout the survey. And I don't know the statistical magic behind it, but I do know I've questioned it myself. Why this one has a different scale and this one's, just to make sure that's correct.
Mm-hmm.
And so I look at that as well and wonder.
Yeah, interesting. Thank you.
Other questions?
Any surprises? Anything that you read, even in the comments, that you're like, wow, I've never seen that before?
Well, I mean, when the comments are nice and people are appreciative, that is great to see. And I love that our departments get that feedback. And people do write really nice things. And they seem genuinely surprised and happy to be asked their opinions. Oh, and one thing I did differently this year, because I've found it frustrating over the years to read a comment. One of them in particular came to mind that said, I just really don't like having to park my car and go drop my books in the library drop box. It would just be so great if there was a drive-through. And so I have kept a list of those, and that wasn't the only one. There were several like that. I would really purchase a SunSmart solar panel, but I think I'm going to move in a couple years, so it's too bad that I can't. I've kept a list of those, and we're going to do survey follow-ups on social media that says, hey, did you know? Because now I know some areas where the message isn't getting through. And I bet I have 7 or 8 comments that were the ones that on the first and second, I pulled them right away. and thought, well, we can answer this one really quickly. And so I wished I would have thought to do that on earlier surveys. But now when I read the surveys and I'm thinking, I can't contact this person, this is a confidential survey, but I can, if that person is wondering about it, I can send that message out to everybody in a social media post or some kind of update, an article in Cityside, something that lets people know, hey, this isn't getting through. People need to know we do provide this, or this is an option for you. So I'm going to save those from this point forward.
Susan, if people wanted to find this satisfaction survey on our website, where would they go to find it?
Well, Tim, that is an excellent question.
Thank you.
So all the resident satisfaction surveys live on the city manager's page on the City of Ames website at cityofames.org. This one has not been posted there. I have a couple other little small cleanup things to do, but they will get posted on the web probably within the week. And then you can compare it to previous years. There's probably 10 years of surveys on there.
Great, thanks.
Thank you.
Can you go back to the slide that shows the way that people get information? I was kind of taken aback when I saw all the different things that you're trying to juggle in terms of communication. But it's interesting that Cityside really kind of was up there along with the web. Are there any things that you think are really not necessary that you could kind of wean out? And I'm just trying to think, one of the council's goals is to really engage the community and communicate with them. So is trying to augment the Cityside and web page even more, or I'm just curious what your thinking is. I know that you've got used to be, you had 3 or 4 different media outlets. That was about it. Now you've got, I don't know how many, 12, 14 different, vehicles that are trying to, cover us. I'm just curious what your thoughts are.
So it always surprises me that a hard copy utility bill newsletter does so well on this survey, because it's always one of those things that you think, is that still a legitimate way to get out information? And I look at the survey and I think, yep, it really is a way that people are getting their information. And the website doesn't surprise me at all that is the most popular way. And that is one of the reasons that's driving our website redesign. The social media aspects, that's just, I think you have to be there. That's just part of how we communicate in this day and age. We are trying some other types of social media like Nextdoor, LinkedIn, Threads, trying to increase our presence on those. And I am curious. I hope to see those grow. And if they don't grow over the next couple of years, then we'll have to reevaluate. Is that a place that we can pull back on? And then we watch the other, what you call legacy media. We continue to watch those because we're, a community that has people of so many different ages and so many different preferences that as long as people are using those resources to get information, I think we need to be there to support them and provide that information. So I think that we're spread out thin now, but I see over time, the data will show us where we can pull back and where we need to put more of our resources. And right now it's in a lot of places.
In your 19 years of doing the survey and being here as PIO, has there been a joint initiative between like the school, the chamber, the city, or other entities to do a common piece that would go out? I mean, there's some cities that send out a magazine. It's got Parks and Rec, it's got city, it's got business, it's got other events that people could, maybe it's quarterly for sake of discussion. I'm just curious. I know printing cost is expensive. I know mailing costs are expensive. I presume you have only a 4-pager on Cityside, because probably a 6-page probably would push you into a next postage rate, and that has a cascading effect cost-wise.
So we try to have, it's for all the crisis that COVID caused, one thing it showed us was how we could all work together in the organization to get out information. There are few opportunities where our audiences perfectly overlap. So I think what we have all as the larger organizations serving the community, what we do is look for those opportunities to cross promote. We would participate in a publication that the chamber does, or we place an ad in a Discover Ames publication, or we're trying to work more closely with the school district to get out information using, their tools. And we know that they're only going, if it's a street closing close to a school, they're interested in that. So I have to be really strategic on what information I send to which group based on who their target audiences are. I don't know. I feel like it's sort of the legacy media challenge. When information went out to everybody at the same time in all resources, those days just don't seem to be, those opportunities just aren't there as much. People are becoming much more niche. And so when it works, we try to make it work. But I just don't see as many opportunities because our audiences tend to be just a little different. That reach is greater. We don't have a desire at the City of Ames. When somebody comes to me and says, I have a Story County publication, that to me is not as attractive as something that works just in our community. And so, and that's a model that's a little different, that most advertisers want big, broad kinds of publications and resources, and we have a very defined audience. So.
And my last question is, if people wanted to have notification that something was posted on the website, like City Side or something else, is there a way for them to sign up from an email notification that, hey, you can go ahead and get the link, or how does that work?
Well, thank you. That's a great question. We have a new notification system called Gov Delivery. So if you go to our website, and if you actually haven't gone to it recently, you'll get a pop-up that says, are you interested in signing up for Gov Delivery or our new e-notification system? And it'll give you a series of topics to sign up for. Now, we're all still learning this process, and we are using it pretty regularly. But we really would like to get people to look through the topics, click on the ones that they want to get information from, and then we're going to be sending out more and more. We don't want to inundate people, but we are sending out more and more information that it's subscriber based. So you're asking us to give you the information as opposed to just pushing it randomly to people who may not want it. One of the ones coming up is if you live on a snow route, there is a special snow ordinance topic. So you can pick that, and you will get an email that says to you, hey, the snow ordinance is going into effect, and here's the date and time. So we hope that that's popular. And eventually, we think we can add on a texting service. But right now, we're just sticking with the email components.
And so that'll be a feature on our City Side, an article coming up, or
Sure.
is it?
Yes, we can. We'll get that out. Again, anybody going to our website should get that pop up right now that asks them, "Do you want to sign up for e-notification?"
Great. All right.
Susan, given that we're now doing that, and I've seen it when I've gone to the website, would it make sense to provide that link to the City of Ames in the Ames and maybe Gilbert School District materials instead of stories? Just provide a link and say, access the city website and sign up for e-notification or something. So it doesn't take up a lot of space and it's easy for them to insert somewhere.
I certainly can try it.
And I don't know whether they would do that or not, but it seems like it wouldn't take up the same amount of space as putting out those announcements about the road closures and whatever else. And you might get people who would visit the website who would then subscribe so they could get the information about road closures. And
yeah, I think I can. Yeah, the school is they have really their sort of their own way of doing things, but they have a great audience reach, and definitely have people that are community members who are interested in more than just city news or more than school news. So I will definitely connect with them.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks for the report. Entertain a motion just accepting the survey results.
so moved.
Second.
Thank you. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Thanks, Susan. All right, move on. Item number 23, resolution authorizing and approving loan and disbursement agreement and providing for issuance and securing the payment. a sewer revenue bond, Series 2024. Hi, Corey.
Hi, good evening. Tonight before you is a resolution, which is the culmination of the proceedings for the sewer revenue bond to support the improvements to the water and pollution control facility. As we've noted before, the total amount of not to exceed for this issuance is $65,185,000 at a rate of 2.68%, well below the market rate. We did talk to our financial advisor after the comment last week. Market rate for a revenue bond of that size is about 4 to 4.25. So again, the advantages of the participation in that program are still pretty significant. So tonight, what we're asking you to do is approve a resolution which approves the agreement with the Iowa SRF program.
Thank you. Questions for Corey? Open up public input. Is there anyone who wants to address council on this topic tonight? Seeing none, I entertain a motion on the resolution authorizing and approving loan and disbursement agreement and providing for issuance and securing the payment of sewer revenue bond Series 2024.
So moved. Second.
Thank you. Roll call.
Aye. Rollins.
Aye.
Katie Hansen.
Aye.
Betcher.
Aye.
Garten.
Aye.
Junk.
Aye.
Great. Thanks, Corey. All right, move on to item number 24, final minor plat for Prairie View Industrial First Edition. Hey, Justin.
Thank you very much. So this is a minor final plat for Prairie View Industrial First Edition. This is at 3700 East Lincoln Way there, just east of I-35. This proposal is to split the existing property into 2 lots known as lots 1 and 2 here on the plat map, which I will bring up for you in just a second. This is owned by Iowa Land and Building Company, which is a subsidiary of Alliant Energy, and they are doing this in anticipation of building a electrical substation here on lot 1, which is the eastern lot there. They are creating lot 2 to have in reserve for future development or to sell for future development. So the creation of the 2 lots is shown there. They are also dedicating right-of-way along Lincoln Way as Lot A for the appropriate amount of future right-of-way. Of note, with this proposal, they have submitted a 5-year deferral request for the installation of the shared use path, which would otherwise be required along the frontage here. With that 5-year deferral, they are requesting to either install it after 5 years or to pay us the cost of installing a shared use path with a future city project. Staff has taken a review of it. We are supportive of that. So we are finalizing that agreement with them as we speak. And we're conditioning that we would not approve a site development plan on either of these 2 lots until the agreement is signed and complete. Minor final plat is it's only 2 lots, so anything 3 and less is not considered a major. So a little bit more straightforward, but I can answer any questions you might.
Thank you.
Yep.
Questions? Open up public input. Is there anyone who wants to address council on this topic tonight? Seeing none, we'll close the public input. Is there a motion?
Move approval.
Second.
All right. Maybe alternative 1. Is that right?
Yes.
Thank you. Roll call.
Aye.
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 Garten.
Aye.
Junk.
Aye.
Corriere.
Aye.
Thank you. Thanks, Justin.
You bet.
All right, we'll move on. Item number 25, a request to defer annexation covenants by owners at 2114 and 2126 State Avenue.
All right. So quick background on this. The properties that are shown there shaded, those are the 2 properties in question. Just to the west of these properties across the road, here is the ISU feed mill. That was annexed about, 2 years ago. And at the time of annexation, the council had the option to include these 2 properties within that annexation process or to handle that separately afterward. At that time, council directed staff to handle that matter later on afterward and come back with it on a future agenda. So in 2023, staff reached out to the two property owners with the annexation covenants that were signed in 2011 to receive water service. And we made contact with them and let them know of what was being intended. And they have submitted letters in response to that contact requesting that their annexation be further deferred, meaning they don't wish to be annexed at this time. So since that time, well, we've come back now and placed it on the agenda for you to consider. So you've got the two letters there included. In looking at it from staff standpoint, I think at this point in time, we are comfortable with deferring that for 3 years if council would see fit. However, either way, there is no issue, we don't believe, with annexing it. It is abutting current city boundaries. However, choosing to defer it until 2027 would not cause any issues with our growth needs or our comprehensive plan. So our recommendation at this time would be to defer if you would see fit.
Questions?
The recommendation would be to defer, but there's a strong implication behind there that in 3 years we would be annexing, or it sounded like, it would serve as another sort of warning to the property owners that it would be coming.
Correct.
That was the question I had too, Brown, because the way that alternative 2 is written, it says the council will accept annexation applications submitted to the city by July 1st. Is the intent, to your point, that if it's deferred, that it will be annexed no later than July 1st, 2027, and there's no really future deferral? How? That's kind of what I took from your city manager, or the city manager recommended actions. That's how it was kind of presented. Can you, because if a motion comes,
right,
it's got to make sure it's clear. So what was your recommendation or intent?
Yep, the intent would be to, the resolution that would be passed would expect to see annexation applications from them by that date. So in other words, we would intend to annex, or that would be your decision, would be to intend to annex by July 1 or see those applications, by July 1 of 2027.
So the property owner would have to initiate the annexation request?
That is the way we've structured it in terms of the procedure, is that they would, according to their agreement and our whatever your decision is, if you would choose to defer, they would need to submit the applications just as far as the administrative process.
Are you asking what happens if they don't do
Well,
it?
Yeah, why,
Right, well,
why would they?
So could council then just say a deferral will be granted for 3 years, but annexation will occur on this date and there's no more discussion or appeal to the city council? That's the question.
Yeah, yes, I believe that's the intent of it.
Because you're
So-
right. I mean, the point is what's going to
But-
stop them?
Yeah, and we
An
can't really
application.
commit a future city council to an action, right? So that's what we would be doing, to defer it and then expect it to happen. We're committing a future city council, basically, aren't we?
Seems like it.
Seems like we're expecting that regardless of whether we make the landowners put in the application, we're still telling the future city council that that is the expectation for those properties, right?
The other option is one person asked for 18 months, one asked for 3 years. You could say deferral until December 31st of 2025, which is when this council still is in power. So you basically reach a compromise. You're basically saying we give you 15 months, and then you're not pushing it into a future council as another option. So they have to revisit it all over again.
Right.
I'm just trying to tease out, understand their appeal.
And this is where I'm struggling as well. So my starting point is to defer to city staff, but I don't remember us having something quite like this before. So can you help us think through? We want to act consistently with how we've done things in the past. So Can you help us think through examples of where we've done this in the past? And why would we not just go forward with annexation now? I'm struggling with that.
You haven't done it before. This is the first time of dozens of covenants like this that exist, where the actions of the city council annex other land made it possible to execute the covenant. So when we brought this to you 2 years ago, this was the first time any council had ever directed staff to do anything. So in terms of the action, what we're here for is because 2 years ago you said to us, execute the covenant. All the covenant says is that the owner, upon notice by the city, must file the application with the city for annexation. The only enforcement mechanism is if they don't do it, is to go to court and try to compel them to follow the covenant. That is the only thing. So the same thing in alternative 2 would still be the case. So what you would be doing is redirecting staff not to notify them until July 1st of 2027 or whatever that date was in alternative 2. The same enforcement measure is what the covenant is today.
So just play this out for us. How would the city be in any different place in the future than we are today? I mean, I'm struggling to figure out what the issues are at play.
The city will be in no different position today or in 3 years. Like our position of the validity of the covenant is the same today as it will be in 3 years.
And since they're already connected to water, what would the annexation entail other than paying property taxes? Anything else?
Well, they would receive city services beyond water service. They'd just become regular properties within the city.
How about their sewers set up?
There's currently no sewer connection.
They're on septic.
They're on septic, and we don't have that on this map. There's a sewer nearby, but I don't think it's readily accessible.
So if they were to have issues with their septic systems, they would be compelled at that point to connect to sewer.
No, that's not how that works.
Oh, they could install
the sewer connections are always controlled under state law. So whether you're in the city or not, if a sanitary sewer is within 200 feet of the connection to the home, we would have the obligation to let them at their cost connect to us. But we do not have, I don't believe we have any law in the books that says you can't maintain or have a septic system if you're already on one and there's no sewer within 200 feet of you.
I see. So there'd have to be sewer within 200 feet.
Well, state law would mandate it at that point.
I
So
see.
then the county would issue a future septic permit if there was a sewer and say, you're done, you have to go talk to the city and find out how to connect
Get
to
on.
the system. But
I
if
see.
there is no sewer nearby,
They can maintain their.
then they should be able to continue with the septic system.
Okay, thank you.
And the reason that you support deferral for 3 more years is why?
I just believe where it is situated, it does not impact any other particular future annexations. That's really the only basis for it. I mean, they originally agreed to this. That was our requirement to receive water service at that time. At this point, it doesn't have necessarily any particular facilitation of other land use issues for us, other than just completing the covenant as originally approved.
I don't know that it says that staff recommend the 3-year, right? I think the manager's action goes pretty, it says if council chooses to defer, then staff say 3 years. But it doesn't say that staff are recommending that as opposed to just
Yeah,
proceeding.
I think Justin used the word was supportive of all of that, but anyway, regardless.
You can go either way. That's another option.
Yeah. Okay, we'll open up public input. Is there anyone who wants to address council on this topic tonight? Seeing none, we'll close public input.
Kelly, were the property owners notified that this was gonna be on the agenda tonight? Just want to make sure that that was the case. We've been in situations before where we thought that they had been notified and they never had a chance to give input. So I just want to make sure.
No, I don't think they were contacted.
Okay.
But we had communication from them prior to this. That's correct.
Right.
Okay.
The two letters are attached that you received. The most recent, I believe, it was in August, possibly July.
So
So that's where the time, like you said, that's where the timelines came from, were from the requests in the letter.
So Mark, can you, I'm just curious, council can council go ahead, or would, if council decided to go ahead and say you have to annex in 3 years, can that be done? Or is that is that trying to bind a future city council? I'm just trying to keep it so you're not having to revisit this 3 years again and having a similar discussion all over again and just trying to cut to the chase.
I mean, the council can do that. Whatever council exists 3 years from now may make a different decision. So it's not really binding them. It's just you're making the decision today to delay it 3 years. New council can make a different decision and delay it further if they want, or decide, to annex before the 3 years is up.
Thank you. All right.
So I'm struggling to understand why we wouldn't annex now. We had an agreement. It's now time. And if there was a compelling reason to defer, then I would be willing to listen to that and weigh that. I am concerned that they've not been given an opportunity to speak to us tonight. I don't know that there's a timing issue. And maybe they would offer something to supplement their letters that would be important for us to know. Sometimes they just don't know what to say because they haven't heard us offer opinions. And so I don't know that there's a timing issue. Is there for us on this? If we push this to a decision to another meeting and made sure that they were given notice of that meeting, is that a possible direction we could go?
Yeah, there's no timeline on this other than the council's timeline.
So if the council is just going to defer this, then there's no point in having this on another meeting. So,
I mean, I tend to agree, though. My only thought is that we did hear what they had to say. Maybe they would say something that would supplement their letter. But if we are thinking we would annex anyway, if we just delay it for them to make the trip down here, but not convince us any differently, then I don't know that I see that, that's just, I know we want input, but we did get it in the form of the letter. So I'm torn there. I know what you mean, but if it's just to have them make the trip down here and not change our minds, why?
and I can answer that question squarely. It's because that's what we do. If people have something like whether they're annexed in the city, that's a major event for them, and they don't even know we're talking about this, then I think we give them the benefit of the doubt on that. Even if they say nothing, even if they sit in the audience or they don't attend,
sure,
they've at least been given the opportunity. So if people want to, I mean, I'm a mayor. I'll let see where.
Well, why don't you go ahead and make a motion? Let's get a motion on the table.
Sure. So knowing that I am interested in going forward with the annexation, that's what I think should happen. I would move that we move this issue to a subsequent meeting and make an effort to reach out to the affected property owners to inform them of that meeting.
Second.
Okay.
Is that tabling this item then?
Correct.
Like what we're calling it,
Yeah, I
as
think
opposed to moving it?
That's the more technical term, is the
I
tabling.
just want to make sure I know what we're talking about.
That would be tabling.
Those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried. All right.
So you're asking us to alert them to a future council date. They're not the most responsive people in the past when we've reached out. So is there some kind of deadline that you're actually interested in versus 3 letters from me that I don't hear back from over the next 3 months?
I would suggest that you say that this is going to be on this particular agenda.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And if you're interested in appearing in person, council will be willing to hear it, but a decision will be made that evening. And if you do not have to appear, but give them a date certain when it's going to happen, and then move forward and take action.
And
not just saying, can you come? And we want to know when you can come. It's just letting them know this is going to happen. And actually going forward and something like this, it'd probably be helpful for, for staff to let the people know in advance, even on a Thursday or Friday, send them the council action form saying, hey, this is going to be on the council next Tuesday night. So they have an opportunity. And I think if they had been informed of that, didn't show up, that's their call. We could have moved forward. But the point is that I would just ask respectfully that in these kind of things going forward, that they be alerted and given the CAF ahead of time by email or by mail.
The only thing I would add to that is if they choose not to attend, but they have additional comments they want to supplement their letters, that's fine too. So, yeah.
Okay. All right. I'll let Steve and Kelly, you can decide on what day, but I don't see what reason why it has to be delayed. It can be done very, very shortly. Move this forward and get it done. Okay. All right. We'll move on to item number 26. Ice Arena Radiant Heat Replacement Project. Hey, Keith. I think your
Good evening
report was
once
pretty
again.
thorough. Are there any questions for Keith on this particular issue?
Keith, are we going to be approaching Iowa State about co-funding on this since they're part owners of the ice arena?
So that's what the capital replacement fund is. So how that fund is funded is the city of Ames and Iowa State University both put in $40,000 each year. And that builds up that balance. And then when we need to pay for something, then we draw from that balance. So they already have. Now, if we get to a point, the one thing is that if the bids come in as the cost estimates are, that balance will go down to about $23,000. And if something else were to happen, then the current agreement that we have is that we would approach Iowa State and look at how do we fund this emergency or whatever it might be. So that's how that works.
Other questions?
Keith, I think you addressed this maybe previously, but what happens with the women's locker room? Like, how are women accommodated right now when they are there for competition?
So if we can, based on the games, the teams that are playing, sometimes we can set aside one of the public locker rooms for the women. At times, what we do is we work with the ISU women's hockey team to utilize their space as well.
Okay.
So that's how we've been doing it right now.
Okay. Thank you.
We'll just make one more comment. So we are recommending, or city manager's recommendations is alternative 1. The date of public hearing should actually be November 26th, not November 27th on that alternative.
All right. Open up public comments. Anyone wants to address council on this topic tonight? Seeing none, we'll close public input. Is there a motion on approving plan specifications for the ISU Ames Ice Arena Radiant Heating Service? Is there a motion?
Move alternative 1 with
Thank you.
November
Appreciate
26th as the bid due date.
Second.
The date of public
Or
hearing.
date of
The
public hearing.
Thank you. All right, roll call.
Beatty Hansen,
Aye.
Betcher,
Aye.
Garten.
Aye.
Trump,
Aye.
Corriere.
Aye.
Rollins.
Aye.
All right, thank you. Have a
Thanks,
great night.
Steve. Yep.
You
Hey
too.
Keith, I've gotten some questions about the Drive the Zamboni experience. Will that be coming back to the ice arena anytime soon?
It will. But what we call it is Drive the Resurfacer experience because we don't have a Zamboni, we have an Olympia.
Okay.
And we did get contacted by Zamboni about
Oh.
using their name. So we changed the name to Drive the Resurfacer. So that will be coming back. We have, I think, we're just working on our winter, spring activities. And I know I saw that in there. So,
Awesome. Thank you.
all
Life's
right.
really
You're
short. We have to fuss with the city when we call this.
Make sure that we hear about it.
Yes.
Yes.
I've gotten many requests.
All right. Well, we'll get that out to everybody.
Would you pass the tissues, please?
That's
Really, gosh.
same idea.
Okay, all right, we'll move on to item 27, hearing on 2023-2024 Ames Plan 24 Sanitary Sewer Extension, South 500th Avenue, County Line Road. Any questions for staff on this item? Declare the public hearing on this item to be open. Is there anyone who wants to address council on this topic? Seeing none, declare the public hearing to be closed. Entertain a motion of accepting reported bids.
Move approval.
Second.
Thank you. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Entertain a motion on resolution approving final plan specifications and awarding the contract to Rognus Corporation of Ankeny, Iowa for the base bid amount of $551,057.70.
So moved?
Second.
Thank you. Roll call.
Aye.
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 Thank
And
you.
isn't it nice to see the bid coming in under the engineer's estimate for a change?
Yep, it is. All right, item 28. Any questions for staff on the 2024-2025 traffic signal program? Seeing none, declare the public hearing on this item to be open. Anyone want to address council on this project? Seeing none, declare the public hearing to be closed. Entertain a motion accepting report of bids.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Entertain a motion on resolution approving final plan specifications and awarding a contract to Van Manen Electric, Inc. of Newton, Iowa, in the amount of $142,043.15.
Move approval.
Second.
Roll call.
Aye.
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 Aye. Betcher.
Aye.
Thank you. Move on to item number 29, voluntary annexation of 142.95 acres located in West Ames along Ontario Street, North 500th Avenue, and Lincoln Way.
Okay, so this is the voluntary annexation of several properties located here on the just to the west of the current city limits of Ames. Generally, this is, as you see there, north of Lincoln Way, south of Ontario, and east of County Line Road. There are 10 parcels total included in this, and the land use in this area on the Ames 2040 future land use map is RN3. So this is an area that is intended in that designation for neighborhood expansion, residential neighborhood expansion. The properties that are being annexed in also have some open space designation on them along Clear Creek in this area with a little bit of floodplain. The plans in this area generally are for a future city park, which will be established in the near future, and also some residential development, and then possibly further to the south near Lincoln Way, potentially a church. So the parcels will come in zoned as agricultural, and then any future plans for development would require rezoning and platting later on. This is 100% voluntary. It is not within 2 miles of another municipality. So therefore, it does not have to go to the City Development Board. It will get filed directly with the Secretary of State and with Story County. We did do our outreach with the township trustees and Board of Supervisors, and we've also given notice to the surrounding property owners as well. So.
Questions?
So I have a question that I ask every time on these. We had a city council meeting 10 years ago where we got wrapped around a pole on trying to figure out how to do this. And so I'm always going to ask, is the voluntary annexation here in any way possibly going to impact a situation on an 80-20 situation where we need any of these properties to force an annexation. So I don't want, this is really easy today, but I don't want to do something today just because it's easy that will adversely affect us in the future if we need to leverage that 80-20.
As far as the land assemblage out here, we don't see anything that would adversely impact a future 80-20.
Okay. Thanks.
Justin, can you indicate on the map where the future park land is on this, just for the benefit of anyone who
Sure.
might be watching?
Sure. So is the mouse there? It's approximately in this area. Oh, sorry, that's going a little far west there, but it's in this area here on this property, adjacent to the creek, and then also to the south here. Actually, the city, we own this property here and the property to the north abutting Ontario already.
Thanks.
Yep.
Other questions? So would the city then rezone the park to like, was it SGA or whatever, or some kind of a classification as government property? Is that right?
Yeah, we do have the ability to do that for city property such as parks. We'll take a little harder review of, how big the park's going to be and figure that out at that point. But yeah, that's an option for us, is to rezone to that.
Because you said it would come in as agriculture.
Correct.
Then it would be, okay, right. All right, open up public comment. Does anyone wants to address council on this topic? Seeing none, we'll close public input and entertain motion on the voluntary annexation of 142.95 acres located in West Ames along Ontario Street, North 500th Avenue and Lincoln Way.
Move approval?
Second.
Thank you. Roll call.
Aye.
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 Beatty Hansen.
Aye.
Betcher.
Aye.
Garten.
Aye.
Thank you. We'll move on to item number 30, hearing on integrated site plan subdivision, major site development plan, preliminary plat for 1726 Collaboration Place.
Good evening. This is an integrated site plan, as you stated. And what that means is it's review of a preliminary plat and a major site development plan at the same time. You usually see those things separately, but when we take them at the same time, we're allowed to apply some flexibility to our standards. And so what you're going to see with this plan is that it allows the site to function as one in terms of circulation by waiving interior setbacks for the parking lot, and review other standards for the site as a whole rather than individual lots. So this property is part of the research park. It's in the hub area on Collaboration Place. It is 4.2 acres, and they will be proposing to split it into 2 lots. Let me rotate this here. So this is the preliminary plat showing that there will be a lot on the west and a lot on the east side of the site. Each lot will contain a mixed-use building. So it's a principal building as well as parking area and amenity areas. Each mixed-use building will have 90% of its ground floor be commercial. There will be 1 accessible unit on the first floor, and then they'll have 25 other residential units on the second and third floors. Amenities include pickleball, basketball courts, a shelter, and there is space in between the buildings for a future patio for outdoor seating if there was a restaurant use in one of the tenant spaces. The integrated site plan also allows for phasing. So lot 1 on the west side of the site is the first phase. We will have a formal development agreement with that phasing plan as part of the final plat approval on a future agenda. And with final plat approval, there will also be an amendment to the development agreement for the existing subdivision to allow us to tax the residential units at a residential rate. Right now, under the development agreement, they'd have to be taxed commercial. So you will be giving us direction tonight to make those amendments and bring it back with the final plat. Some other notes on alternative approvals required with this site plan. The buildings are shown at an 18 to just over 20-foot setback. We have a maximum setback in this district of 20 feet. So we do need to apply that ordinance that allows 20% variation. Because it's a major site development plan, instead of staff approval, it is city council approval. So that's listed as an item under your alternative one tonight. They did request that due to the curved lot line and topography, so there are grounds for that. They also requested an alternative landscape plan. There are 2 trees in between these garages right here and here that don't meet our spacing requirements from buildings. So they're proposing to have 7.5-foot space versus 15 space from a building, half of our standard. But as they are providing an amenity in covered parking for their tenants, you are able to approve an alternative landscape plan. Those trees will also be columnar, so they won't be hurt in any way with that decreased spacing. And finally, I'll just note that staff found the design of the buildings complies with the intent of the research park zoning and hub area. There's a trail connection, pedestrian access, high levels of glazing, high quality materials to define entrances. And it also meets the standard for being compatible with surrounding uses. That was a big point of discussion with the commission. You know, is this compatible having residential uses near potential industrial users? You know, in the hub area, it's mostly users right now that provide services, McFarland, Ames Racket and Fitness. And so industrial users such as John Deere or the Ag Smart facility are much further to the east or south. And we've had no research park users identify any operational concerns after we provided notice. So the commission did recommend approval with condition to submit a lighting plan and those 2 alternative approvals for the maximum setback and the landscape plan. And that is also the city manager recommendation, including direction to amend the existing development plan for the tax classification issue. So that's alternative 1 in your report, and I'm happy to take questions.
Thank you, Amelia. Questions?
How many residential units total?
50.
Thank you. 25 on each lot.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Other questions? Is stormwater offsite? I didn't see.
It is. Yep. Stormwater is, do you see this little red bit? It extends to the south on an outlot. We do have an approved stormwater management plan, and construction of the stormwater management facility will be required with the first phase of the development.
And is that going to be like used for multiple properties, kind of like an integrated one, or is
No,
it
it's just for these 2 lots.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Open up public input. Anyone want to address council on this topic? We'll close public input. Entertain a motion
Move approval.
Second.
of alternative
Alternative 1.
number 1. Thank you.
Still second.
All right. Roll call.
Corey. Aye. Rollins.
Aye.
Beatty Hansen.
Aye.
Betcher.
Aye.
Garten.
Aye.
Junk.
Aye.
All right. Move on to item number 31, vacating existing 10-foot public utility easement. Any questions for staff on this item? Declare the public hearing on this item to be open. Anyone want to address council on this topic? Seeing none, declare the public hearing to be closed. Entertain a motion on resolution vacating the existing 10-foot public utility easement located at 3300 University Boulevard, Iowa State University Research Park, Phase 3, First Edition.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Rollins.
Aye.
Beatty Hansen.
Aye.
Betcher.
Aye.
Garten.
Aye.
Junk. Aye. Corey.
Aye.
Very good. We'll move on to disposition of communications to council. First is a email from Brian Heenan. We've seen this before. Cyhawk scooters, ride share electric scooter follow-up. We'll share with council that the city manager and I will be meeting with Dr. Winterstein for our quarterly meeting this Friday. So we are going to just ask if, as he alludes to, Iowa State's been contacted. And I think, Rachel, did you say that someone said that they have been in contact with the police department? Is that right?
Yeah.
Do you have anything you want to add to that or not? Or not really?
I don't think so, but I do think it would be a good idea for us to look at our micromobility policies for the city, maybe in advance of more of these coming to town.
You'll make that in the motion?
Sure. I would move that we request staff to look at a micromobility ordinance for alternative micromobility other than bicycles for Ames and bring it back to council at a future date.
This is already in the works.
It's okay.
So, right? I mean, we still can, but I just. Yeah.
It's good to
I'll
remind
second.
us.
Yeah, I'll second.
It could also be just move it up in priority, given the fact that this person's indicated
Yeah.
they're going to be coming. So
Yeah,
instead of just raise it up to a level of quicker attention. All right. Those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried. All right. Next is from Lynn Ballard, request for zoning text amendment. Is there an interest in a memo or just decline the request?
I'd move that we get a memo.
There's a second.
It's about
Second.
where the
Those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried. Next is an email from Mark Clipsham.
It's okay.
Sustainability suggestions. May I just suggest I'd be happy to respond to him, thanking him on behalf of council for his thorough email and suggestions and take into consideration going forward.
So moved.
He's very
Second.
Thank you. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Next is an email from Eric Charter regarding homelessness in the downtown area.
We're just taking this under advisement, right? I mean, I think we're kind of waiting on the community conversations on homelessness. I mean, I would say we could reach out and say that we understand that it's an important topic to be looking at, and that's why we are in fact going to be undertaking this, this consultant and these conversations. So I would just move that we thank Mr. Charter for his input and let him know that we're hoping to be discussing these topics soon.
I'll second it just to discuss.
Go ahead, Tim.
Steve, could you give us a sense of when we might expect that report back?
I think to be optimistic or maybe more accurate, probably not until the spring.
And some of this, my concern is we've got the cooler weather is going to be moving in. So some of that's going to resolve some of this itself. But this community is, I'm getting a lot of feedback on homelessness. There is a person who's living on a corner, has been there since Thursday. And so I think we need to do something. I don't know if waiting to spring is the responsible thing to do. And maybe there are some incremental issues that we can take up. I know our city attorney is looking at some enforcement issues. But Mr. Charter is not the only one who's concerned about the situation and what's happening in our downtown. I don't have answers tonight. I don't have a proposal to make. But we need, as a council, we need to embrace this as an issue and figure out what to do.
Yeah.
Thank you. Those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried. Next is an email from David Carter, zoning text amendment for social service providers, Historic Preservation Commission.
I would move that we get a memo from the city attorney.
Second.
Those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next is email from Jennifer Harris regarding 913 Carroll Avenue concerns.
Steve, is there anything more that we need to do on this?
I believe they're looking for you to consider additions to the city code that might deal with their particular concerns.
About houses being unoccupied.
And also exterior maintenance or not? Are there two issues here or one?
There could be two issues, I think. Could be some exterior maintenance issues also.
I mean, this is a problem in this neighborhood. And if you've driven by there, this is an eyesore. And So Steve, I'm looking for guidance. Should we put this on an agenda? What does that look like? I don't know what next steps mean here.
Well, this will be frustrating because I think you've asked us after a year is up to come back with pictures of a lot of the problems or complaints we received that we weren't able to handle under the current code. So I think you should deal with it all at one time, but that doesn't take care of this particular complaint any faster is the problem. But I don't know if you want to do this piecemeal is what I'm saying. There's probably other areas that people are frustrated with.
But we don't currently have the means to deal with this property, do we? I mean, staff has already been.
But that's the
It says
point.
there's a
She's
couple items they could take care of by Friday, but not the entirety of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's what she's asking for more, maybe to deal with homes that are not abandoned, but not occupied.
Unoccupied. I think the
Unoccupied.
main thing is if you can prove is if a house is unoccupied, can the city take some more action?
Right.
And so,
Higher standard. So
yeah. Yeah, because I think the property maintenance issues get dealt with, but it takes so long for them to get dealt with. But I think the crux of this was about the unoccupied nature of the building. Like if we know a place is unoccupied, can't we do something?
So I'll take a stab at this. I would move that we ask that this be put on a future agenda and that we ask staff to provide us with options for consideration that we might look at, and particularly noting what other cities, peer cities have done in similar situations.
you're dealing with unoccupied buildings,
Correct.
residences.
Correct.
Second.
Any discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried. Next is email from Troy Eichman, Furniture Mart, request for property tax abatement. And council, if I may just suggest, if we just put this on a future agenda to expedite, this instead of asking for a memo, then going on to a future agenda, at least that would be my suggestion to keep this thing going. It's exciting to hear they're going to considering bringing a Furniture Mart, or a furniture store to the community.
I would move we put it on a future agenda.
Second.
Thank you. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried. And next from Damien, I think this is for our information, next steps on the bike and pedestrian master plan. Just under advisement. All right, we'll move on to reports of governing body. Anything to discover, Ames?
Yep, we had a board meeting this past week. Got to look at some exciting different campaigns they've been running this fall. And then the community grant application timeline for 2025 has closed. So I have 42 applications to read through and rank. So looking forward to that funding process.
Thank you. How about the Alliance?
We had a meeting on Friday and Governor Reynolds spoke at the meeting. She's very excited about upcoming additional tax cuts and continuing with that momentum. She also talked a lot about the investments that the state is making in things like new housing and the $330 million in private investment to match the $18 million investment in employment, which has brought 500 new jobs. There was some discussion about a pilot program on community solutions for workforce issues like childcare. And I think that that might be something that we would be interested in. Hamilton County went from having 4 child care facilities to now having 100% enrollment in all of their facilities. And it just sounds like it might be something we could look into. I don't know if there's an opening of some sort for Ames in this program. That was not clear to me. And we have Danfoss here in Ames has partnered with 3M to open slots for childcare with $1.3 million from the state. So I think that's good news, especially for those employees at Danfoss and 3M. Yeah, we've got some interesting potential, it looks like. And I guess we'll just wait and see what else comes from the Alliance for us.
Thank you. Story County Emergency Management Agency, I'd asked Rich Higgins to go in my stead, and I forgot to ask him to give us a report, so we'll have one for you next time. Did you go?
Yeah, I was there.
I actually asked Tim to go, and he's going to report on it.
There was a discussion of a new generator for emergency management. That's an important component for them. There's a construction of a new building that's happening. There was a discussion of that, and the disaster fund. They're wanting to make some changes in allocation, and the Stop the Bleed program, which I had never heard of, is a program that's being done in a lot of our schools, and I believe it's Chief Higgins is taking a real leadership role in that. So that's the report.
Sorry, Tim, I forgot you were.
That's all right.
Brian, do you have a second? You had a meeting with the mayors beforehand. Just want to highlight, not necessarily all the detail you went through, but just explain the process that we're going through to kind of discuss the solid waste.
Sure.
Just a very high level, just to show that we are really trying to reach out to our communities in Story County.
Right. So we utilize the Story County Emergency Management Commission as a mechanism to communicate about the Resource Recovery System 2080 agreement, because all of the participants in that system have representatives at that meeting. So last week, I, along with Public Works Director John Joyner and Interim Resource Recovery Superintendent Mark Peebler, went to the emergency management meeting and talked about where we have been regarding our waste to energy journey and some of the issues that we face with our current operation. We talked about some of the efforts that we have recently undertaken to work with Metro Waste Authority and seek other potential partners for a landfill solution for the solid waste that can't be recycled or disposed of in some other way. We have had some conversations in recent weeks with Marshall County, which operates a landfill, as well as with Carroll County and with Blackhawk County about the prospect of partnering with one of those agencies for the ultimate disposal of solid waste. We are continuing to explore those discussions and see if we can't come to some terms on paper that we could then present to the council and to the other communities. At the same time, we're also looking for, we are looking to flesh out the financial feasibility and the operations of a solid waste transfer station, where we would be able to take solid waste, where we would take recyclables, where we would also take yard waste and potentially organic materials, and then consolidate those materials and transport them to the appropriate location for disposal, recycling, or composting as appropriate. So those were the kind of the high points of what we discussed with the mayors from the other communities and the Board of Supervisors representatives. We expect to hear back from some of the potential landfill partners in the next couple of weeks, and we're going to continue to nail down the potential costs for an alternative to our current resource recovery system operation here prior to the budget preparation season.
Well, I appreciate you and staff, the other guys going over and talking and just updating everybody, and when you had the opportunity, when they all were gathered together. So, okay. Thank you. Transit.
Let's see. Transit has met, and I just had the agenda pulled up. We talked a bit about the budgeting process. We had gotten several requests for additional service, but we at this time, SciRide staff recommended just proceeding with the services we're offering, and so we did have to kind of turn down some requests from Ryman Gardens and the Research Park to add stops in their areas. But really just with the financial situation we find ourselves in and that Iowa State finds themselves in too as a partnering funder, we just felt it was better just to hold course and absorb the, it's already 2.5% budget increase just to maintain the same amount of service. So anyway, and then in consent agenda, we tonight approved the purchase of the 2 new 40-foot buses. So that was the other thing we talked about.
You also have to look at an improved way to pay.
Yeah, that's true. So SciRide staff are looking into methods for purchasing tickets electronically. So right now you have to either pay cash or go to City Hall and buy a ticket in person. And I suggested that we might be able to reach more folks by finding an electronic method of ticketing. And so they're looking into that and the cost of that. And so I'm hopeful we'll have some suggestions there on how to move forward with something electronic.
And that's a great suggestion. Can you give us just a 30-second on what's ridership like? Are they?
It is up. Yep. And I think so. It's probably at about pre-pandemic levels. It's recovered since then. And it trends upwards. So ridership is up. And I think non-student ridership is up as well, trends up. I think especially, the non-student ridership areas are going to be international folks in Ames, and those would be like non-student ridership that's increasing. But I think, as part of our CAP, we really need to encourage ridership among more and more people. And so while it's good that number's going up, I think we need to keep pushing it up farther too.
Great, thanks.
Thank you. All right, council comments. Emily, anything tonight?
Hi. Sorry guys that I'm not there. Another thing to add for transit is that we approved the free rides on November 5th for election day. So all day that day there will be free rides on the bus. We are officially 1 month out from the joint student government city council meeting. I'm working on that agenda right now. I have a few meetings this week that will help me to finalize some of the stuff we're gonna talk about. So I'll get that to you guys as soon as I can.
And that we're starting at 5, is that right, on that day?
5 p.m. November 20th at the MU.
Thank you. Anything else?
That's all from me.
Okay, thank you. Gloria?
We had a speaker during public forum,
Audrey Canis?
yes, who expressed concerns about the housing code and the implications for affordability in Ames. And it's been, 6 years since we were embroiled in these discussions. And I would like to move that we get a memo from staff on what the current restrictions are that we still have in place for our rental housing code.
For occupancy specifically?
For occupancy, yeah. And conversion of bedrooms.
If you look at our code currently, her situation is
there
legal.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second, thank you. Go ahead.
I don't know.
I noticed that too.
Because the definition of an adult is someone who's over 18 unless they're a dependent of the people living in the household. So I don't I mean, in this case, it doesn't seem like either one of the
Yeah.
children.
I think you just have to refer us to that. I don't know
Yeah.
if there's communication.
Right.
First time I heard about it was children, now they're adult. I don't know if they're.
Adult
Yeah,
children.
and I'm not thinking about that. I'm
I
just.
think we need to follow up on that anyway. I'm going to follow up on that.
Yeah, I just want to know where we stand because we had some aspects of what we did overturned by the state's decision. And it's been a while since we talked about this stuff. And I think that we have had, well, obviously we do have ongoing concerns about affordable housing in Ames. And so I would just like us to see a memo of what is currently in place regarding occupancy and bedroom conversion.
Second, or that was second.
Been second by Amber. Thank you. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Anything else?
No, that's it.
Tim?
I wanted to give a shout out tonight to the Ames Town and Gown Association. They are having their 75th anniversary this year. So that's been a long standing tradition. And I attended the concert on Friday. It was fantastic. And wanted to especially acknowledge Paula Forrest, the artistic director, who does a terrific job of bringing in high quality chamber music events. And sort of fun, their next concert is going to be in our city auditorium on Saturday, November 9th. So coming up. And it's 5 outstanding musicians from Ames. So these are people that grew up here, have had successful music careers, and they're coming back. So a word of thanks. These kind of events really help make Ames special. And for students, they attend for free. So it's a really neat opportunity for students. That's all I have tonight.
Thank you. Rachel?
Excited about the Ames History Museum's grand reopening this weekend. It'll be from 12 to 8 p.m. There's also a ribbon cutting on Thursday, but I think we have our special meeting. So yeah, excited to attend on Saturday and see the grand reopening.
But others might want to attend the ribbon cutting at 4 p.m.
Yes, on Thursday.
On Thursday.
Amber?
Nothing for me.
Nita?
Just reminding people to vote.
Thank you. Owen?
Did we so I know we got Gloria's memo on occupancy and converting bedrooms, but do we have sufficient direction on responding to the woman?
I think Steve's going to follow up with that. Yeah.
Because like Amber said, it says they don't count as an adult if they're a dependent. So I think she's okay. But okay, but
Make sure everything was communicated correctly.
You don't need any more.
Nope, I'm on it.
Action on that. Okay, nothing for me then.
All right. And to say, we can go ahead. I have the privilege of joining Emily and Dr. Winterstein in greeting student government representatives from 15 of the 16 Big 12 universities, and lots of leadership, lots of excitement. And they were noting, I'm not sure, Emily, maybe you can help me, but I think that we may be the only one that has an ex officio from student government that serves on city council of the 15 different university towns. And I think that was the buzzword and the buzz conversation going on, that they're going to take that back and suggest it. And I was just extolling the virtues and the benefits that we have by having an ex officio on council. So.
Yeah, that was kind of the consensus between the other schools. They were pretty excited about it the next day after our dinner. And I just want to thank you for being there again. We were really happy to have you there.
Well, thank you. All right, Mark, does council have a justification to go into closed session?
Yes, you do. Iowa Code Section 20.17 subsection 3 allows the council to go into closed session to discuss collective bargaining strategy.
Thank you. Is there a motion to go into closed session?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call.
Beanie Hansen.
Aye.
Fetcher.
Aye.
Garten.
Aye.
Funk.
Aye.
Corriere. Rollins.
Aye.
Thank you.